Tokyo Olympic is big for us, being Japanese citizens. So what challenges do you think athletes will experience, especially this year?
Yeah, so obviously any big event, an athlete's always gonna, it's gonna be imperative that they're able to manage pressure. At an event like an Olympics, that's the pinnacle. And so, or at least one of them. And so I think pressure is always magnified. You have to kind of look at the idea that these are the world's elite athletes, and they're certainly used to pressure situations, and they do that pretty well. The Olympics, it kind of adds a little bit more substance to it, so just a little bit more of something that they have to really focus on. So so I always think that that's it, stress, that type of thing. But I think this year with the COVID variants now coming out, I think it kind of sets things up a little bit in a difficult way, because you have worldwide, we see the light. The vaccines come out and we start to see that we're going to get over this hump. Things are going to get better. And then all of a sudden, all these variants start to come up. And at just the worst time almost, it seems, right? Like it's coming in just as the Olympics are starting. And I know that the athletes, having been a competitive athlete myself, I've got to have a fixation into preparation for that games. And quite frankly, I don't think I would be affected by the anxiety as much of catching COVID, as much as I would be concerned about the Olympic Games not going through, myself personally. And I have talked with other athletes that have felt similar, So I think that that's an anxiety that a lot of times people don't think about, because I know right now there's a high sentiment about potentially canceling the games, but I think it really depends on a lot of perspective taking. And, ultimately want everybody to be safe, and do all the right things. But I do think that comes into the concerns of athletes, but of course, all the other things too, the stressors, the pressures, as I mentioned, and staying focused on the task at hand, that kind of thing.
But how did you work with athlete who is going to Olympic?
Well, basically, in the situation of working with an athlete that might be at the Olympic level, or it would be very similar to athletes that are working at a club sport level. The level itself, obviously, the events, are more prestigious as you move up in these elite kind of sports. And certainly there's different nuances to that. There's tapering and there's things like that go on into anything. But I think that in general, you're focused on the task at hand, the process. And if you think about it, like you have the event and you have things that are associated that are occurring seconds before that event, minutes before the event, days and weeks before the event. And similarly, there's things that are affecting performance seconds after the event, minutes after the event, and days after the event, And so if you assess, you ask the athlete, you've got this particular event coming up, whether it's the Olympics, whether it's a championship game, whatever it might be, you ask them to rate. We have a scale that asks them to look at different factors like their thoughts, their routines, their food, their nutrition. We have a checklist. And for those given time periods, we ask them to indicate which things seem to affect them as far as they're concerned at these different time points. So we can isolate the time and the factors that might be relevant, and then we focus on that. And if you think about it, you're in that way, everything is given homage to the competition, whatever that competition is, whether it's the Olympics or it's a baseball championship, whatever that might be. But you're focusing on the task at hand, in that consideration. And I think that that's the key, honestly, because otherwise, if you think too much about a particular event, like the Olympics that are going to go on in Tokyo, I think that's going to lead to some anxieties, unnecessarily, So that's what I would say. We just do it just like you would normally do for anything, for any different type of event. just with the respect that there could be some additional anxieties that might be in there, and perhaps other factors.